Okay.
Deeply wrapped up in all the concerns and all the stresses.
Now, this guy's remembering his time before birth. I really didn't expect him to get this far into it this fast, but listen to what he says.
There it is, very normal. But it has very much impacted my life and my path because I have some personal awareness about what I'm doing here, and I have a passion for trying to share, with others, some aspect of what we really are. Because we are not just human. I know it looks like we're human. We're doing the human thing. I'm a working professional in my daily life. I know how this sounds, but actually, deep down, the nature of what we are transcends the human condition. It transcends the human experience. We are individuals, we're spirits who are having an experience of being human. And that's a really important message to keep in mind because, we take our lives on earth so seriously. We get so deeply wrapped up in all the concerns and all the stresses and all the fears and all the stories. But who we are vastly transcends the stories. We are beings of incredible freedom and love and power and joy. And that is what we really are. And we lose sight of that because, we're veiled while we're human. We become obscure to the true knowing of who we are.
Now, the other day when I was sort of going through this process, I negotiated the veil again, kind of, but right over here in the middle of my floor. And as I negotiated the veil, and I'm back in my bed right now where I've been having these dreams. And I'm going through this process with my ex. If it's even my ex, I'm not sure, but we had some issues, and I know she still has some issues to work out. At least I do. But everything about, even in the dreams, the relationship my dad had with my mom, different shit she did to him, different things, they do require the veil. So it's like I just want that context to be there for what I've experienced because I've been able to make some adjustments from his point of view.
Just human level. That's a part of the game. We do that in order to have this experience. So that's just a little prep, just a very high level comment. I just need to say that first, before I dive in. So would you want me to just dive in and
just dive on in,
kind of share some of the memories that I've had?
Yeah, we would love to hear.
The timing of this is difficult to articulate because we transcend linear time. And so while these memories are incredibly ancient and they also do have a sequence, they also are all happening right now. They're like living alive experiences, not just memory like we experience it in the human way. Okay, so that being said, I remember long ago, before I was ever physical, actually, before I had any physical incarnations, coming across a being who had been physical. And when I came across this being, I could feel and know from him telepathically, because there it's all an exchange of information. There's no language necessary, no spoken language. I could feel the quality of his nature and his essence. It was so overwhelmingly beautiful and full of power and love and just capability and expansiveness that it was breathtaking. I could feel this amazing joy and power. And I said, my goodness, do you feel the depth of joy and power and freedom that I feel that you feel? And he shared yes, and he allowed me in to feel what he experiences. And I was completely awestruck. I was inspired. I was like, I'm going to do that. What did you do to do that? I want to do whatever, what that is. And he said he had been physical. He shared with me many things, but chief among them was that he had lived physical lives. And in one of them, he had suffered some kind of ailment, some kind of disease or something. I don't know exactly what.
And now this is my dad, because he's expressing his soul from being a sword and being tempered like a sword. So if you'll listen, and this has been up for debate, because I'm like, do you really think you have to remain being a sword?
But it was very painful, and it lasted for a number of years. And the way that he chose to meet that very challenging experience allowed a refinement of the quality of his essence, his nature, who he was, refined and and I really don't know what words to use, but he just expanded and refined in a way that was very, very tangible from that state of being. And I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I was so deeply inspired. And at first he said something to the effect of, yeah, that's what they all say. It's difficult in a way that you don't know. Kind of not brushing me off, but kind of no, you don't understand. You don't know what this. But I was persistent. I said, no, I mean it. I want to do that. So we'll go talk to your guides. Immediately right after that, but I know that I lived many experiences after that. And then I came back later and found this being again and shared with him. He was in the process, and he was encouraging, when I shared with him. Okay, so the majority, though, of my pre-birth memory experience is of a time somewhat immediately preceding this life. I remember taking a long break after previous experiences and just being reluctant for a while to return into the rigors of the game. It was kind of like taking a very long weekend and being reluctant to go back, something like that. And I remember this guide coming to me over and over again and saying, are you ready to go back yet? Are you ready to go back yet? And putting him off and just saying, no, I'm not ready yet. No, I'm not ready yet. And eventually saying, okay, I'm ready. And then reviewing with this guide what I can only describe as my state, who I am, who I have been, who I was, what qualities I really knew and expressed. And the words are so limiting here. I really don't want to pigeonhole it. It's very hard to describe, but it's kind of just evaluating who I am and what I knew and what I understood and what I had experienced and mastered and what I had not. And it was very apparent to me the thing that I needed to work on. I don't like the words work on. It's not like that. But there was this very obvious thing. I had this fear that had bested me in a previous experience. It had overcome me. And in that previous experience, I was a very unhelpful, unkind person in that life because of this fear. My ego got out of control, and I caused a lot of damage to other people. And when I say damage, by the way, I don't mean true damage, because the soul cannot truly be damaged. There's no true damage. But I knew that in that life, I had been very unkind and unhelpful, and this fear was just so deep. And I could feel it and see it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta do something about that. And I knew, though, that if I could be this incredible expansion of being, not just in me, not just me, but of the whole. I don't know how to describe this, but this incredible expansion of what was possible, a refinement and an evolution of capability, if I could know and meet and integrate this low vibration fear. But I could see even from there how very extreme this fear was, what a low vibration energy it was. And I asked, is it even possible in all of creation? Has any being ever done this? Has any being ever integrated something this extreme in this way? And I was shown yes. Yes, and you have all of time available to you to do so. That was what was expressed. So there's no hurry. And I just knew that if it was possible, I'll do it. I will do it. And from the human perspective now, having experienced this life, it seems so strange to me at times to say that, because I do experience great challenge at times, of course, like we all do. But from that perspective, I knew the incredible power of the soul. And I knew that we have nothing to fear and that nothing can truly overcome us. And we are incredibly powerful and expansive and free and full of joy and love, and that cannot be overcome. And so I just knew, if it can be done, I'll do it. So they brought me a life packet, a package to review for this intention that would be optimal for me to re-experience this fear and to face and integrate it. And that life was extremely appropriate. It was a great match for my quality, who I am, and also for the intention of processing this fear. And I reviewed this life in detail, and I accepted it. When I say this life, it's not this current life as Christian. This was just before this experience. I reviewed and accepted the life, and then I accepted the veil. And this is the part of my memory I remember the most clearly, is this process of accepting the veil and the vibrational place that we are at now in relation to that higher state through the veil. I don't know how to describe this, but it's like a plummet in the vibration of the being, such that all knowing is cut off. And I describe it like if you have an amplifier that produces a pitch, like, and then you turn the knob down, and then when you get to the volume, you turn it down some more, lower, 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 more, now lower, now crank it down, lower some more. That was what it felt like. It was just an incredible drop in the vibration of my being. And I felt all of what I am like disappear, be cut off, being erased. Very hard to describe the sensation, but it was like going from a place of high vibration, connectedness, and knowing to feeling separate and dark and dense and alone and not having access to my knowing anymore. And it was terribly dark. And within seconds of getting there, I was like, I am not doing this. There is no way I'm going to tolerate this for a lifetime. This is not happening. So I summoned my might, my strength, and I fought my way out past the veil. And I was successful in doing that. But I became aware that I had killed the fetus that was to be my body. I had caused a miscarriage for the mother. And just like near-death experience just described, I had a life review. Even though I was only there for super short time, I don't know how long, but a very short amount of time, I could see very clearly how my fear had negatively impacted the mother by heaping grief upon her shoulders. And not only the mother, but hundreds of other people, like in ripples away from the mother. I could see and feel how they were all their journeys were made more difficult because of my fear. I was like, and so from that perspective, it's okay. Everything's okay. It's just, it's just like a big play. Everyone is okay. But I also very objectively could see, oh man, I got to work on this because I had all these big plans. I wanted to have such a positive impact. I wanted to grow and participate in this amazing human game, and the opportunity to be given a human life was so precious, but I had wasted it. And so I kind of resolved, okay, I gotta do something about this. I'm gonna try again. So they brought me now this life to review, and this life was not as appropriate as the first one would have been. I mean, I'm not going to put numbers on it, but it just wasn't quite as appropriate as the first. Like the match, it was okay, it was good enough, but it wasn't like super appropriate because my spirit, my soul has certain qualities, and the life has certain context qualities, the biology, the parents, the context, everything. It's all, there's a certain fit that there's a certain level of a match or not. And in this case, it was good, it was okay. And I remember reviewing this life in incredible detail. It was as if somebody, like, this is just a metaphor, but this is how it visually, I saw it visually and I felt it within me. It was like if you took a tree and laid it on its side and you started at the trunk and then worked your way out to the branches, I could see millions and millions of possibilities of how this life may unfold. What was very likely, what was less likely. It was like a probability tree, I guess you could say. And the thing that was unknown was the free will choice making, of all the participants. But it's pretty darn good at predicting outcome. So I could see that certain branches were very likely, and I could see that it was very likely that I would suffer a trauma in my early 20s, and that trauma would crush me and give me the opportunity to re-experience this fear. And so I was very excited. From this perspective, it seems, I guess we might even consider it's not masochistic, okay? But I can see how some people might say, oh my gosh, I would never sign up for that. But from that perspective, I was very excited at having the opportunity to be challenged in this way and to be able to have the opportunity to meet this fear. And I made certain requests for the life. For instance, I knew that it would be important that I would be male in this life, just because the male energy would be helpful for me to have a certain type of personality that would help me to deal with this fear. And I also knew that the qualities of my parents were important. I knew my father would instill confidence in me and that it was really important that I had that confidence so that I would have a rock to stand on when the fear hit. I would be strong enough in my own self to be able to weather it and have a chance to, to really face and process it. And I asked certain things like, I asked to be intelligent again in this life. I knew that I had been intelligent in previous experiences, and they said, yes, you can do that. And I asked to remember a very small amount this time. I said, I would like to not forget everything this time. Like, I don't want to forget everything. I just want this tiny, tiny little sliver of memory, please. Can I do that? And they shared, yes, you can do that. But I could feel from them that, this is really hard to describe, but the contrast between there and here would be even greater. And so the life would be even more difficult if I did that. But see, I knew that even that contrast, like all contrast, was and is an opportunity for growth. Accepted. I was like, all right, let's do it. Okay, so I remember there having to be this moment to say yes, and I'd like to accept the package, so to speak. I don't remember that moment, but I do remember being in like this waiting area where there was this golden light, this beautiful light, and I remember this guide coming to me all of a sudden, like, go now, like grabbing my attention, like grabbing me by the shoulders very forcefully to like shake me and push me into, it was like I had to interject into Earth time or something, and I had to go right now, like not later, right now. And then I found myself in this, what I can only describe as like a tinkerer's shop or a technician's shop, where there were these beings who are very mechanical in nature. It's very hard to describe. And they do this thing where they fit the veil to you. So like the soul has certain qualities, rich qualities, like its own universe of qualities, and the human life and the biology and the context and everything has a certain quality to it. And they do this thing where they make it all fit so that the veil will be very effective and be worn properly. And they asked me one last time, "Are you sure?" Because I knew that once I said yes, here I was in for the ride. It was like, once you get into this roller coaster, you're not getting off till it comes to a complete stop, that kind of thing. And I said yes. And then I remember the veil coming over me, and this time, struggling not to fight it. And one thing I hadn't mentioned is in between these two lives, I spent some time practicing surrendering my control to the veil in like a simulating environment, like a simulator. And so I just did not resist the veil. I surrendered and allowed this down, lower, more, plummet in my vibration, and this knowing that I had be erased and be cut off. And once again, I was in the dark and alone and feeling super dense, arriving to a place where there's just no heat. Like arriving to the vacuum of space is a good metaphor, I think. Like you get there and you can't breathe. It's cold. There's nothing. It's empty. And yet dense, so dense. And I remember sending one message back to the technicians. Did it take? Did the veil succeed in arriving? And they sent one message back, yes. And I felt actually the sense of accomplishment, because it was like, oh, I made it. Like even just making it into a human life was a huge accomplishment. And then I was there for a while. And eventually, that same fear that I had the previous time arose once again. And I was like, I am not going to do this. This is so dark. This is so low vibration. This is so dense. I am not doing it. There's no way I'm going to tolerate this. I'm not having it. So once again, I began to summon my might and my strength to fight my way out. And when I did, this most holy moment of my entire human journey happen, I felt the presence of what we can only describe as God. I mean, it's certainly beyond any word, like a human word like God, but it was the great I am of all that is.
All right.
God is the closest word I know that came to me, expanded me back out, and I felt all of the universe within me, and I felt all the stars and all the galaxies, and I felt the churning bliss of our sun.